Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan, Less Than Guru, and on today's episode of things you might want to incorporate into your Palladium First Edition, and this would also work in other Palladium games, is using D6s to test or make checks against your straight attribute. So instead of using skills, sometimes you might want to just do an attribute. Say there's a stuck portcullis that you're trying to lift, or you're having somebody try to memorize or remember something or memorize something. You can use D6s as a means to check against that attribute. Now, Palladium, for the longest time, there was no official role versus attributes. And when they were asked, they gave a couple of examples. And I can't remember if this is from Rifters or sometimes in the beginning of various books, they would have some questions and answers and they would give an answer. And their answer was either to just roll percentile against the attribute or double the attribute and roll versus percentile, which to me gave very low chances of success, which I wasn't quite happy with, even with very high, say, physical endurance in that lifting. The portcullis example, so you had a 15 or even a 20, only having a 20 or a 40% chance just kind of seems kind of low for somebody that you're going to allow to make the test. Because if you're going to allow to make the test, you might as well have the person who is best at it, have them be able to have a decent chance of success. So the other thing is in old school D&D, when I played, and I actually don't know if this is a real D&D rule, but one of the things my game master did is have us roll a D20 against it, because in D&D you would roll 3d6 to get your stats. The D20 was close, and if you rolled under your attribute, your statistic, and then you succeeded. And I used to use that a lot. But this, again, is something where you beg, borrow, steal from other systems. And I have a review here on a game that I played at Purdue University called Adventure Quest Jarn. And in Adventure Quest Jarn, they would have you roll a different amount of D6s versus an attribute. So if something was very easy, it was just, okay, you don't even need to roll. You can do it. If it's easy, it's a D6. And you'll see here on my task difficulty, if it's easy, it's a D6. If it's simple, it's 2d6. Average is 3d6, because that's going to be your average attribute when you roll 3d6 for your attribute. Hard, you're getting into 4d6. Very hard, 5d6. 66 is near impossible. And then if it's impossible, I just say, sorry, you can't do it. What this does is this allows the characters to have chances, and it uses all their attributes, whether it's a mental affinity to convince somebody of something, or if it is lifting that portcullis or memorizing something for later. And then the perception check, I do use Palladium's perception check that they introduced in Nightspawn, and I just have the list here of what you would need to roll. And the 21 is because you can get bonuses to perception, but that would be a near impossible. What I've also done with this is when I have a contest, instead of doing something where each person rolls 3d6 versus it and whoever rolls better wins, because that leaves ties and stuff, I have again, my divide by 5. You might notice that I use that a lot. So say there's a strength contest, and I'll use an actual example, because sometimes using an example from actual gameplay helps, because then you see how it does. We had a squire who was holding a door closed, and there were big, strong opponents on the other side of the door. He was trying to hold it closed. They were trying to open it. And I took his physical strength divided by 5, and that's how many dice I had the opponents roll against it. So on that one, he was, even though he was a man of arms, he had a good PP and he had a good PE, but his strength wasn't good, so it was a really simple roll. But then what I did is other people, or I think one other person helped out, then he was able to add the D6s. They still had the door opened on them, but the opponent still had to roll. So that's how I would do that. If you're doing a contest, you find out kind of who the defender is, who's trying to hold that door closed, hold that portcullis down, try to prevent the activity. So the person trying to prevent that activity, take their attribute, divide by 5, and that's how many d6s the other person rolls. If multiple people do it and you think they can all help out, like 2 people holding a door, makes sense that they would be holding that door closed and both of their strength would be added. What I did is I had the one divided by 5 plus the other divided by 5. I didn't add the 2 together. You might decide you want to do that because that might get to another division by 5, a full division by 5, so that you can add another dice. I don't do that. You might do that in your own game, but it's a quick and cool method to do so that a game master, you can just look at this chart, you can say, okay, maybe you just remember it's average. 3d6 versus it. And if the person has an 18, 19, or 20 and you're telling them to roll d6, they legitimately could say, hey, I automatically succeed. They're that strong. You determine as the game master the task difficulty, and they already surpass that. So why not let them do that? So that is my tip for today on how you can use your attributes and you can adjust it. So it's not just a flat roll a d20 versus it, or roll a percentile against it. You can tailor the difficulty by adding or subtracting d6s. So once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorvaltron, Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.